Joining us now is House Freedom Caucus member, National Security Subcommittee Chairman, Congressman Ron DeSantis of Florida. Congressman, what do you make of all of this?
Well, good morning. I don't know necessarily what to make of it. I wasn't there, but I will say this. Some of the issues that the president has raised with respect to both legal and illegal immigration were issues that a lot of people hadn't raised in the past, but I think that they've resonated with the American people. I mean, for example, this idea of having a diversity visa lottery where it's not based on merit, but just random countries are entitled to visas. That's not the best way to make America competitive in the 21st century. I believe that we need to move to a merit-based system, so I think the president's right on that. And then in terms of things like chain migration, I think it's a similar problem where someone may come in based on merit, but then you have these extended family that are more family-based rather than skills-based. So I think the president should hold firm on demanding the end of the diversity lottery, the end of chain migration, and the border wall so that we can stop the problem of illegal immigration. And I think that's a reasonable compromise for him to insist on that.
But there was a compromise that was worked together by a group of senators. And in this, that President Trump seemed to reject. It had some funding for a border fence, but only $1.6 billion, which is, I believe, less than 10% of what the president had been calling for. It did end the diversity lottery program, although it did allocate green cards to some people who have been living in the United States under temporary protected status. Some of those programs that Mr. Trump is ending, and one of those TPS programs benefits Haitians. So it comes down to at least that the president was presented with something that had the marks of things that he wanted to do, but he is rejecting that. He rejected that last week.
The thing is, Dagan, though, it didn't do, I mean, that was a similar thing that's been done for the last 30 years. I mean, you go back to the Reagan amnesty, people were promised security and an end to illegal immigration. And illegal immigration, not only did you have an amnesty, you had a huge increase in illegal immigration. I think that deal that was presented would not have solved the problem. It would have required Congress to come back in 5, 10, 15 years and do this again. And I think it's not too much to ask to say, let's deal with this so that we're not constantly doing Groundhog Day, where over and over again we're presented with the same type of ideas that haven't worked in the past. So I don't think that went nearly enough in the president's direction. And if you have senators who've been real leaders on this, like Perdue and Cotton, if they're ruling it out immediately, then that's not really a compromise that's uniting people from all spectrums.
And you had Senator Perdue saying that the president did not make these remarks, did not say that in that meeting, which was not televised. But there have been many calls for Republicans and to denounce what President Trump said, and there's a back and forth about what he said and how he said it, but to denounce it and say, yeah, it's racist. And we did hear Congresswoman Mia Love say that she believed those comments were racist. Where do you stand on it?
Well, actually, I believe Perdue's account from it, and I believe Tom Cotton's account from it. So I think the president was misrepresented. Look, this is a guy, the president, who years ago, after the earthquake in Haiti, he is paying his own. He wasn't a candidate for anything. He's paying out of his own pocket to send Rand Paul down to Haiti to tend to patients. That's the type of guy he is. And so I think you've got to look at this stuff in the context that you have different senators with different accounts. And why would somebody like a Durbin go off and do that? I mean, look, these guys are at war with the president. So I don't really accept Durbin's account, quite frankly, and I side with Perdue and Cotton.